Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here for the final NXT recap before Stand and Deliver. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And we waste no time as NXT starts with getting into the action. We see all four competitors in the ring for the NXT North American Championship. That includes the likes of Eddie Thorpe, Lexis King, Ethan Page, and Wes Lee. Before we can actually start the match, Ricky Saints makes his way to the ring. And essentially, this is exactly what you'd expect with a fatal four-way nonstop action. Um, Saints ends up getting ejected because Ethan Page pushes Eddie Thorpe into him as he's just sitting ringside minding his own business. Um, but yeah, this was nonstop action, and no one appeared to look weak here, in my opinion. And yeah, Ethan Page ends up hitting Lexis King with a twisted grin to earn his way to Stand and Deliver to face Ricky Saints for the NXT North American Championship. This is kind of the outcome I had expected, when they announced the Fatal Four Way, and it feel like they'd kind of been planting these seeds for Ethan Page, and I think it just makes most sense, given how their stories have become, a little similar in their path to NXT. Yeah, great start to NXT, and we continue from there. We did get a little bit of promo with Jordan Grace, the juggernaut in between here. It kind of explains her story and how she got to NXT. I thought this was. I normally wouldn't mention this kind of thing, but it felt like it was pretty well done, and I think makes her more relatable and likable as a face. And the other side of that same coin, I think this story would work great as well if they were to make her heel, which obviously inevitably they will do. And I think she'll make a better heel than she will a face. But regardless, I thought that was a good bit. We see the other contenders make similar promos throughout the night as well, but I thought this one was most needed because I feel like I don't know. Personally, I feel like she's struggling a bit to connect with the audience. And so I think this kind of story helps her do that. Then we have Tatum Paxley versus Lola Vice. This is the second to last spot in the Women's North American ladder match. And yeah, these two women were given plenty of time here, and quite a bit of back and forth. Lola Vice does end up getting the win and earning her way to second to last spot in the ladder match. So I had hopes that maybe Tatum could get in there, but she was getting quite a bit of the offense at the start, but then Lola Levi started picking up momentum, and eventually it just ended up being a little too much for Tatum. So I think Tatum will get her time, but on this occasion it was Lola Vice. And next we get into the gauntlet match. So if you didn't like the gauntlet match you saw on Friday with the tag teams, you have another opportunity here, and this time it's for the NXT tag titles. It starts out with Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Egway versus Hank and Tank. And even before this match started, and I'm sure you thought the same, KP, I was sitting here thinking this is a great opportunity to make Hank and Tank turn their luck around if they were to just get a few victories here, eliminate a few teams. I think this would get them in the right direction. Not only did they snap I know it's technically still the same match, but not only did they snap their streak and not getting a victory, but they run through the entire gauntlet, which I think is kind of like the Rumble cliche. Like it seems like they always do that or something similar. But I like that aspect in that I think it's entertaining, and you don't know for sure how far they're gonna go, but they did. They went through all of them, and a couple of them were some, pinfalls and or roll ups, so not super convincing win. But regardless, Hank and Tank go through all four teams, and yeah, they had to work their butts off to do it. So yeah, Hank and Tank become number one contenders to Fraxium and get that title shot at Stand and Deliver. I couldn't believe that they actually went from not winning for however long that was to beating, going through the entire gauntlet. But I think that was a great way to finally get momentum on their side, proving that they do belong here. And I think that match at Stand and Deliver will be really, really, really fun. So looking forward to that one. KP, in terms of go home shows, we typically have a pretty low expectations, but my goodness, main roster could take some notes from NXT. What were your thoughts on everything we saw here in terms of the number one contender matches? And are you excited to see, and are you surprised by the outcomes we got here?
The main roster could take a few notes. I think when it comes to just the general quality of matches and what they sort of mean going into the big shows, I guess maybe this had a lot more relevancy to it. Just the opening contests going into the midway section of this NXT. Obviously, you've got a qualifying match, you've got number one contenders match, you've got tag team number one contenders gauntlet match. There's a lot going on. There isn't really anything in this one that didn't matter or that felt like filler. So, the importance is high and everything was sort of like revolving around something in particular. As to whether I enjoy the matches or not, yeah, the first match was great. I thought the Fatal 4-Way was a fun watch. All four men really just sort of like showed up and showed out, and there were some really nice moments throughout. I thought Wesley's take on Whisper in the Wind was pretty awesome, as well as a couple of other spots throughout the contest. Ricky Saints getting involved, getting ejected, and then obviously getting some payback on Ethan Page after he would get the victory. Yeah, it seemed to be written in the stars that Ethan and Ricky would be going one-on-one for the championship. So, yeah, no real shock from this one. Definitely enjoyed the match, though. I thought it was just, a nice way to kick things off, set the pace for the rest of the night. And, yeah, excited for that match to take place. Ethan Page versus Ricky Saints should be a good one. Hopefully it will be. Lola and Tatum Paxley, I was happy with the time that these guys were given, like you mentioned a minute ago. They could have made this one maybe a little bit shorter. I think like in recent times, Tatum Paxley, whenever she's had like decent matches, they do tend to go by pretty quickly. So it was good to see her, being showcased a little bit more. Cause I think she's a really good talent. Lola Vice, obviously, been someone who has been sort of like middle to upper card for a little while now, more so maybe the middle of the card. But I think she's always in around that position. She's never really sort of like made that next step. Her winning this match against Tatum Paxley, maybe she's one of the front runners for Stand and Deliver to win the NXT Women's North American Championship. I don't know, perhaps, maybe. But this could be maybe a good stepping stone for her to get to that next position that I think she's been looking to get to for quite a while now. So, yeah, interesting to see how that's going to play out. The women's ladder match is really shaping up. Obviously, she's got a little bit more to talk about that later on. But yeah, these two women had a good match. I quite enjoyed it, to be fair. It was not bad. And then that gauntlet. Yeah, you mentioned the cliche with the Royal Rumble, with like, starting at the beginning and then going all the way to the end and ultimately winning or, coming up second best, just about. I really don't like that aspect. I think it's so predictable. Like, I think the main problem that I have with these is that I mentioned this on Friday night SmackDown's recap for last week. I feel like when you have a team that goes from start to finish, it just makes some of those other teams look a little bit weaker because this team ultimately has gone through 3 or 4 teams by this point. You get to the end, and then that this team that started can defeat a fresh team after going through like 3 previous teams. I don't know. I just feel that like there's something to that makes the teams look a little weaker. The matches were good. I will definitely say this gauntlet was better than the one on Friday because the match quality was a lot higher. And they weren't as fast, like they weren't as quickly decided. So I think, yeah, just a general thing, it was a better gauntlet, but I just really don't like this style of someone starting and then going to the end. It happens every single gauntlet. I don't remember the last time it didn't happen. There seems to be no sort of even competition with these gauntlet matches when it comes to somebody coming in of real credibility and taking out somebody who's done a couple of beaten a couple of people at the start. Like, that's doable. That's more than possible. And there are teams in this that could have done that. But yeah, regardless of that, Hank Tank's story has been really good. So I'm not going to criticize that because they've gone through a lot of teams. They've lost to them all. And, they tried to get advice here, there, and everywhere from all these different teams. Ultimately, it was the Street Profits that provided the main bit of advice last week when they said just be yourself, don't try and be anybody else, and just do what you do best. And ultimately, that's played in their minds. They've used that. They've really lasered in and focused on that particular bit of advice, and they've used that to win this gauntlet. And the story is there. I like the story, but how the match plays out and the gauntlet style vibe to it, I don't know. For me, I'm just really not a fan of that whole sort of dynamic. And maybe I'm in the minority there. Maybe I'm not. I don't know, but just my personal preference. I can't get around that. It just happens every time, and I'm bored of it. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But Hang Tang's story is great. Number one contenders for the tag team titles, them against Fraxium. Yeah, I'm interested. Based on how they were in this gauntlet, they could be genuine threats to Fraxium.
Yeah, you make good points, and you know, it does. And I think obviously comparing the NXT tag division and the women's tag division on main are two different stories. And in this match's defense, a lot of Hank and Take's victories were roll ups, so it's not like it was a clean, decisive win. So I think that helps protect a little bit, but yeah, in reality, and it's not super. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense that a team that had just had three matches, give or take, can come in and still get beat. Yeah, it doesn't. I think it would have made just as much impact if they were to come down to the second to last or even the third to last, like prove that they had ability to get some wins. And I feel like they probably could have made this a slower burn story and slowly pick up those wins over the next month. And I feel like the longer they made that story, the slow burn they gave that, the more the crowd would have ended up being behind them. But this works too. But as you mentioned, yeah, it's not super surprising when you saw them lead off. So, but with that, we move on. And we get before this, we get a couple of segments. We get a Jada Parker promo as well about how she's the only homegrown talent in WWE, and that everyone else wants her to fail because they come from somewhere else and they don't want to see her succeed. I thought that was another good promo as well. We also get a kind of strange to say an organized backstage brawl between the family and Dark State. And Dark State was just sitting there without any weapons whatsoever, which was strange. And obviously the family had I think a crowbar apiece. So interesting decisions made there. But yeah, this had some pretty good spots in it. And before the Dawn finally arrives, and or basically the same time, the police arrive, and it ends up Dawn was the one that actually called them. So some tension there between the Dawn and the underboss. I think that's probably going to be a story pretty heavily going forward. They've been teasing it for a while, but it felt like there was some real tension there. And yeah, the Dawn announced that match would be taking place at Stand and Deliver. So yet another match for Stand and Deliver's card. But getting back to the action, we get Carmen Petrovic and a returning Thea Hale, and this is the final spot for the women's NXT North American ladder match. It was a nice surprise to see Thea get back, make a return, and she got a pretty quick win. That didn't clock at it, but it was it felt really quick. And so she got that Kimura lock and becomes the final competitor. So yeah, I thought maybe this would be a little longer, and maybe the would have some ring rust, but that was not the case. She got this win pretty quickly, so we'll see where she can take that momentum. And then to end the night, we get a segment between Javon Evans, Obafemi, and Trick Williams. Nothing groundbreaking here, but each competitor makes their case as to why they're going to win on Saturday. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting promo, and I felt like everyone was kind of bringing the intensity. Everyone kind of brought their own flavor, and I feel like they each have a leg to stand on, and in terms of why they should win. And honestly, a few weeks ago, I didn't care. I wasn't looking forward to this match, but they've done a good job, kind of making me excited for this one. So I am excited to see. I have no idea who's going to win, but I suppose we'll get into that a little more in our predictions video. So with this KP, obviously the second half of the show, or at least the way we've organized it, wasn't wasn't quite as intense as the first half. But what were your thoughts on the Thea Hill return and pretty quick win and the final promo before standing delivered between Trick, Oba, and Javon?
Yeah, definitely a lot less to talk about in terms of, just general segments and I guess their importance here, basically. But yeah, what we can break down isn't really as much as the first half. But yeah, still a fair few things happened. You had obviously the Dark State and D'Angelo family brawl in the parking lot and into the backstage areas and stuff. I quite enjoyed that, to be honest with you. That was pretty cool. The Don coming in afterwards, so basically just cementing his assertiveness over the situation, getting a match that I'm particularly looking forward to at Stand and Deliver. So yeah, I'm excited for that one to take place. 3 versus 3, so it'll be interesting to see which member of Dark State doesn't get involved, or is going to be at ringside, I should say. Very similar to the match they had probably a couple of weeks ago with Trick, Ober, and Javon. So yeah, I think it'll be a bit more cohesive between the Janzo family, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited for that one. Should be good. The brawl was quite fun. Tia Hill coming back was quite a surprise. I didn't see that coming. She's been off for quite a while now, ever since the breakup of Chase U. So nice to see her, maybe going down her own path now. She got a new theme. She's got like a slightly different mentality. She maybe looks like a little bit crazy, like she always has done. But I think there's something different about her for sure. Just what I got from her in this brief interaction. But yeah, her and Carmen and Petrovich didn't last too long, to be fair. Carmen's on the rise up, so it's hard to really sort of like know what to expect from her against any opponent at the moment. But she's on her way. She's getting more TV time as time goes on. Definitely more as a singles competitor now, anyway. But yeah, Tia Hale, I think when she was revealed to be the opponent for Karen Petrovich, I think it was clear as day she was going to get the victory. She goes to stand and deliver. Can she become the Women's North American Champion? I'm not too sure. Maybe it's possible. There are a lot of good talent in this matchup, so it'll be interesting to see how that's going to take place. Conversation for another time. But yeah, Tia looked dominant. She looked great, and great to see her back in the ring as well. When it comes to the rest of the field, obviously you can see them there just standing along. It's an exciting matchup, but I'm really looking forward to it. The ending segment of NXT, like you said, with the little trio of guys for that main event for Stand and Deliver. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think this did much. It was just, the three hyping each other, hyping themselves up and, staking their claims about why they're going to win or whatever. It was fine. It was good. It sort of like gives us a little bit of an aftertaste that gives us a reminder that this is the main event. I don't think it's the biggest match on the card, but I understand why it will be the main event because it's for the NXT title, so it makes sense. But yeah, obviously they want to push it as the main thing. This is the last thing that we're going to remember going into Stand and Deliver, and that's fair enough. It makes sense to me. But Javon Evans standing tall at the end is quite interesting. He's obviously been trying his way. He's been trying his hardest to really sort of be heard by both Trick and Oba going into this match. So I guess this is maybe a statement made from Javon. And Trick and Oba maybe have to take the OG a little bit more seriously, perhaps. But yeah, NXT in the build to Stand and Deliver. Our last one before it, the Go Home show. I thought it was good. I thought it was definitely an improvement from what Raw produced on Monday. Leading into WrestleMania. So yeah, I think maybe NXT having the one ups here so far in the week. But I think regarding what I'd give this one as an overall rating, I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think there were a couple of things that maybe could have been improved upon, especially that gauntlet match, which I just am not a fan of. And then, yeah, I guess maybe the second half just maybe fell a little bit flat compared to the first. But 7.5, I think is pretty fair. And there were some definitely really good moments during the show, some high parts for sure.
Yeah, I can't really add anything to that. I agree on most things there, and and it was nice compared to other go home shows that felt like you couldn't just get by without not watching the show because there were implications and there were competitors still to add to the matches. I don't think Maine could quite get away with that in terms of not having or having spots still available this close to the biggest show of the year. But I feel like NXT is able to do that, and I feel like they did it quite well. Um, they otherwise these go home shows just feel like they have no importance whatsoever. And we added 2 matches to NXT, Stand and Deliver. So yeah, I thought this was a good show. It was entertaining, and it was a lot better than most go home shows, especially with Raw fresh on the mind. But yeah, I give this one 8 out of 10 simply because it felt important. And yeah, like you said, the second half didn't quite live up to the first, but for the yeah, I didn't dislike the gauntlet match quite as bad as you, and I like the fact that Hank and Tank are getting their spot now. So yeah, overall I thought it was entertaining, and I'm excited for the final competitors that they added to that North American women's ladder match. So yeah, in terms of weekly shows, I think this is the best one we've had in a couple of weeks. It feels like kind of hit a lull there, and yeah, with that, this is the final NXT before Stand and Deliver. So just a few days out now, and from that and WrestleMania. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We will also be uploading a NXT Stand and Deliver predictions, as well as WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2 predictions here in just a day or so. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP, and we'll see you soon. Take care.